Hello, everyone. Nina D here with Family First Life. We have a very, very special, amazing guest today, Miss Casey Traut. How are you doing today, Casey?
I'm doing good. How about you, Nina?
I am doing great. Listen to those clapping hands. How cool is that?
It makes you feel all good.
Casey, how are you? Great?
I'm doing really, really well.
Yeah? Okay,
Really
so
well.
backstory. We'll kind of go through your background, where you come from and all of that, but you texted me the other day and you said something like, thank you so much for reaching out to me on LinkedIn. You know, you could have reached out to so many different people, but like you messaged me and this has changed my life. So let's talk about how you got started with FFL, and I'll kind of go through how we found you and all of that. So Go ahead.
So, before Family First Life, I was at GCU, so Grand Canyon University in Arizona, and I was a collegiate athlete. I had done cheer, and obviously that's what I did in college. So I had done that all throughout high school and then competitively throughout college. And then after college, I was working for a cheerleading organization like all throughout college during the summers, and I had a chance to travel. And, work with them in some higher level things. So I was like, okay, I might as well do it because, when's the next time or, that I would get to be a cheerleader again. So I did that for summer. And then I went into a marketing and business development job that ironically, one of the girls that I cheered with, it was her boyfriend's mom that was starting the company. So it was a small LLC in downtown Phoenix. And so I had done that for like about 6 months. And my boss was super, super cool. So we were actually gonna have a meeting and I was gonna talk to her about like some questions that I had regarding like my role and that sort of thing. And so like, as I was talking to her, I could tell that the meeting was different. And before I even really started and jumped into it, she was like, do you like what you do here? And I was like, does it look like I don't like what I do here? I was like, I hope not. And so she was like, no, I just, and we kind of went on a conversation for about an hour and a half. And she was just saying like, I think you're meant for so much more. And, the stuff that I have to offer you here is not going to be big enough for all the things that you're going to accomplish. And I thought that was super cool, that she saw that in me, and it made me feel empowered and excited. But that happened during COVID. So just kind of prior to FFL, when I had stopped working there, I was looking for a job for like 6, 7, 8, 9 months, something like that. And then that's when you had messaged me on LinkedIn. And what was weird was like a lot of people get a lot of messages on LinkedIn because it's a professional network.
Especially insurance agencies. I'm sure you've gotten plenty of those before.
I'm sure that I didn't even really look at.
Right.
So, but for some reason I did pay attention to yours, and I don't really know why. I think it was definitely like more of a God thing, because I've had so many messages and they were probably all queued in there, but I had paid attention to yours, and it was just simple of saying like, hey, have you ever thought about getting your insurance license? And in the back of my brain, when I initially read it, I was like, no. I was like, that has not even crossed my mind. But, I looked into it further, and I was like, you know what, at this point, I really don't have anything to lose, because I was looking and I was interviewing and nothing was really sparking my interest. I'd already worked a 9 to 5 and I didn't enjoy it. And I definitely wanted to do something different where I was more hands-on. So all that to be said, when you had reached out from that point of like studying, I was still in between things. So I had taken longer to study than I wanted. But then once I started here, I gave myself like a 90-day non-negotiable, like you're going to get good at this.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I did. And that's what led me to being here now. I'm like rolling into my 9th month.
So insane. And you've been crushing it. So the reason we reach out to so many people on LinkedIn and all these other social media platforms is what we have at FFL is very special. It's so different compared to any other insurance companies. Like Sean Mike literally disrupted the life insurance industry by creating FFL. And a lot of people still don't know what FFL is. So like I reach out to people 24/7 on LinkedIn, whether it's salespeople in, pest control, solar sales, like it doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to reach out to people. But there's also millions of people on there. So like the fact that it was you and it was that perfect timing, and you said that you never read, any of these
people's messages.
Exactly. So I remember, Casey, from day one, like when we had our first conversation about FFL, and I was kind of explaining, you had asked a ton of questions, and that's something that you're really good at. Like you always ask questions, you're always looking to get better. But I remember our first first conversation, like, and after you passed your exam, you said that, you know, you were going to go all in on this, and like, you were super, like, you had that entrepreneur mindset. Your dad does too, right? So he was super supportive of you. So describe like what all in meant for you, like from the day that you started. What did that look like with following the FFL system?
So that's a great question. So kind of like I said, I gave myself like, you cannot reevaluate if you like this or not, even past like the 90-day period. Because anything that you do that you have never done before, you're not really going to be good at, even kind of scratching the surface really about 60 to 90 days in. So I was like, you need to give it at least a shot, and you're not going to reevaluate anything at all. You're just going to lean in. And I wasn't someone who came out of the gates like swinging and making a ton of money. Like, I really did have to learn. I was still profitable, but at the same time, I was like, I just want to learn and get better at this, because that's the competitive edge in me too.
100%, yes.
And so, you know, I remember specifically one moment, I think it was about within that 90-day time period. I was in like my 3rd month, and I remember my travel trip that I was like, okay, I got this. Like, I know how to sit with someone. I know how to do this. And I felt more confident. I remember thinking that. And then it was like a month or two after that, I had done one of my biggest months, which was like the closest to 50,000. It was about like 48. And so, I mean, at that point, like, all in for me was, I was like, I'm going to give this a go. And so, you know, again, the whole 90-day period, but also I was like, you're going to do it for at least 6 months.
Right.
Like, at least 6 months, go all in. So that means like, lean into the training, get better, do exactly what they tell you to do, follow the system.
Ask questions.
Yeah, ask questions. And because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So what I don't know is actually going to end up hurting my client and end up hurting me if I'm just not asking and educating myself so I can educate other people.
100%.
So, you know, at that point, like with the 6-month mark, I definitely was all in, even more so at that point, because I was like, okay, now I know more so what I'm doing and that sort of thing. So that's what all in meant for me, was I was like, I'm going to follow the system. I'm going to get better at this, whatever it takes. And I told myself, I was like, I mean, really, truly, when I started, I was like, if you're not good, like, and you really haven't made much progress, which I highly doubt if you're going to lean into it, at 6 months, then you can do something else.
100%.
And so I was like, you need to at least try.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I was at.
It's very easy to go back and find another job. You know what I mean? So that is awesome, Casey. You are amazing. So talk about those first 90 days. What did that look like? Did you want to quit at any point? Were there struggles? Where were you like, okay, like...
Yeah, like so for me, I mean, sure, like, I had never done something like this or modeled like this before. And so I remember like sitting in these chairs in this office and being like nervous because I was around people.
So uncomfortable.
And I was like, I've never like made calls like this, even though people are already interested in it. I was like, man, like, how do I overcome when someone says they're not interested or whatever? So, but that again is the competitive edge in me of we're going to figure it out. So whether I called you right after I called someone else, like that, I was determined to get better at it, because no one likes to not feel like they're doing like not a good job, So for me, like in the first 90 days, I remember feeling like, okay, again, you haven't put in enough effort, like not effort, that's not like the correct word, but haven't been here long enough and worked hard enough to really see what you're made of.
Right.
So I would say, honestly, other people that have been in this industry, and specifically with FFL for a longer period of time, have all said they wanted to quit at some point. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you felt that too, where you're like, this is so hard. Yep. Like, you're working with people. So people are sometimes like the hardest like concept to grasp. And so, especially when you're trying to help someone make an educated decision about their family, like, and maybe they don't see it eye to eye, like that is your job, is to help them see that. So all that to be said, I feel like I felt more, the longer that I'm in it, sometimes there are days that I'm like, man, I should have done that better. I should be better at this. I know we've called each other and been like, oh, well, today wasn't the field day we had anticipated.
Yeah.
But so kind of working through that though, like I remember I am so blessed to be in an opportunity where people at my age make what I make in an hour or two in a whole month.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So prior to FFL, your previous job, what were, if you feel comfortable sharing, what were you bringing in a month on average for income?
So yeah, on average a month, I was bringing in about 2,600.
Okay, 2,600 a month.
Or a little over, maybe
average,
around there,
you know. What about now? What are you averaging a month in income?
Averaging on a low month, like on a low month where I'm like, is probably about 20,000, 22.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And like, it kind of like, people always say like, that's way too good to be true.
Right.
Like, let's be real. Like in what world does you're 24, right? A 24-year-old, gorgeous, beautiful, prior cheerleader make 20 grand a month doing insurance, right? It's just the FFL system. And like what you did was you came in, you decided to go all in, you plugged into the system, you called us in every single home. You just simply plugged in, and you had no insurance experience prior to FFL. And that's the coolest part. Like with, you know, you look at these other companies and there's these people training that did it or that sold insurance 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
With FFL, it's like the newest person, the person that came in last week and had a record weekish training, which is so inspiring. Like you don't have to have years and years of experience to be good at this, right?
Right.
And we're still all learning every single day.
Yeah, of course.
So do you think, Casey, that absolutely anyone can do this?
I definitely think so. And one thing that I always harp on with people, like, you know, when they're having a conversation with me of like, you know, again, what you're saying, are the numbers real? Can anyone do this? Like people explain. And what I tell people, because I don't sugarcoat, and I'll tell them that right up front. I'm like, I will be straight up honest with you. This is the hardest thing I've ever done.
100%.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I always follow up. I'm like, it is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I mean, next to me for like having a relationship with Christ, like this I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams I would, one, be doing something like this, but ever be making the income that I am, ever. So like it wasn't even on the radar.
I have chills right now.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't even on the radar. And like, you know, I think going back to your question of can anybody do this? I think if you're willing to plug in and really work hard, like you're saying, ask questions, talk to people, like you really don't know what you don't know. So if you're willing to work hard and see what you're made of, you absolutely can do this and blow past anything that you ever would have thought you would have brought in monthly income wise. But also this is really like, it puts you to the test sometimes of like what you're really made of.
Oh, we're getting tested every day.
Yeah. Like what you are really made of and how disciplined you are, how much, you know, you see little tendencies in yourself of like, okay, am I going to push past this moment when I would tell another like agent on my team to push past that? Like, are you going to be the integrity like factor, you know, doing what you should be doing when no one's watching kind of thing? Like that's huge. 100%. And so, you know, I mean, again, kind of going back to what you're saying, I really do think anybody can do this if they just like put their head down and really work and just ask questions and dive into, again, what we already have built out here.
Right. I mean, Casey, dialing's not easy. Getting no-showed is not easy. Cancels, reschedules, none of that stuff is easy. Writing 20 grand a month is not easy, but the FFL system just makes it so simple. Like literally we have this perfect system laid out that as long as you come in and, you know, show your work ethic and actually do the dang thing, like you are going to be successful. Yeah. So I think, I might be biased, but I think that everyone should work with you, period. Everyone in the world should work with Casey Traut with FFL. So Casey, if someone wants to work with you and they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can reach you?
So you guys can reach me at my personal number. So that's 918-606-5875. And then my Instagram, you can definitely get a hold of me that way too. And it's Casey, CASEY_fish. So it's a play on words because my last name is Traut. So that's how you can find me, is either Instagram or my phone number.
And they can text or call you, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, Casey. Well, what are some, before we get off, before we end this thing, so what are some goals you have mapped out for the rest of the year?
Goals. So obviously I want to do stuff for my own personal pen and then also building as a team. Like I'm looking to bring in people who are hungry and really looking for a change. And so, you know, with that being said, there are goals set out for both. So I think, for me, it would be hitting Hall of Fame, which that's like the $400,000 mark.
You're on track.
And so that's really exciting. But then also for my agency, again, helping people be successful and win, getting to a volume of The goal that might be like a stretch, but I really think we can do it is about 500,000.
I 100% think you. I know you can do that, and you just hired John as well, who he just came off a $53,000 issue pay month, which is
nuts,
insane. So if you work with Casey, she will teach you exactly how to make 20 plus grand a month, and I'm looking forward to seeing all your success with FFL. Very happy to work with you.
Oh, thanks, Sina. Happy to work with you. Thanks for bringing me into everything. I wouldn't have known if you hadn't told me. So
this is FFL. Let's go.